Good morning. Hello, my name is Evelyn Delgado Norris, and I teach French in the Department of English, Foreign Languages, and Literatures. But I also branch out and teach courses such as African cultural influences and women's studies, which are very interdisciplinary in nature and draw knowledge from the humanities, the social studies, and other fields. So our department also houses the International Studies program, and I've taught intercultural communication in the past, which is also tied to my studies in languages and cultures, but also my international background, living and studying abroad and constantly crossing borders. I thought that that introduction was important because you can easily gather that I do not like to be confined to one strict area or discipline. I consider myself a student and a researcher of culture. And my academic activities, which are constantly in flux, correspond very much to my life background and mode of functioning as what I call a vagabond, right? And I try to bring that to the classroom. And I tell my students it's vagabond in the sense of not so much a wandering mind, but a wondering mind. And as educators today, our role encompasses so much more than just the strict content of our disciplines. So how and where does the CTRE and its resources, particularly its grants for me, fit in this picture? Well, the grants that I received through the years have allowed me to put into action my personal professional development plan, which really operates on two levels. The first level is skill and knowledge development, especially when it comes to integrating interdisciplinary content in my language courses, as well as other courses that I teach. The second level I look at, when I take notes and when I'm thinking about my professional development plan, is enhancing my competencies. And one of my goals, very intentionally and very selectively for this aspect, was for me to concentrate on technology, technology for language teaching and learning. So let's look at the first aspect and how CTRE has really helped me with skill and knowledge enhancement. As I mentioned earlier, an educator's role today really encompasses so much more than the strict content of his or her own discipline. In the 21st century and the global world, communication and collaboration across different fields and cultures is vital. Thus, we need new methodologies for teaching and learning. What we call 21st century skills brought forth by the Partnership for 21st Century Learning, which we call P21, refers to a broad set of skills and dispositions that have been identified as essential for success in today's complex world. And to me, these were very important because they serve as a blueprint in my curriculum, particularly when I set learning outcomes for students and when I look at my own teaching practices. So these include applied skills, cross-curricular and interdisciplinary skills, transferable and soft skills, just to name a few. And if you want to consult, more exhaustive list, we can look at critical thinking, problem solving, research skills, creativity, imagination, perseverance, certain dispositions, right? Self-direction, self-discipline, oral and written communication, of course, leadership, collaboration, facility in using virtual workspaces, information and communication technology, ICT literacy, media and internet literacy, data interpretation, civic, ethical, social justice literacy, entrepreneurship, global awareness, of course, multicultural literacy, scientific literacy, environmental and conservation literacy, understanding ecosystems, for example, and finally, health and wellness literacy. So the really very long. We cannot address all of these aspects or integrate these aspects in our classroom. But one of the strategies is really to be very selective in, what we choose and what we concentrate on. So how have the CTR grants helped? Well, we can intentionally, as I mentioned, integrate some of these aspects in our courses. And the recent CTR grant that I received enabled me to research, reflect, and write a paper that tied in literature and urban ecology around the world and address, that particular aspect of environmental literacy. And I thought this was an aspect that was really essential for our time. And that was a topic I wanted to add to a few of my courses, not just the language courses, but, the African culture courses as well. So I prepared and was able to present a paper entitled Global Children's Literature and New Urban Ecologies at the National Social Science Association's spring conference this year. Of course, because of pandemic, it was virtual, and that was okay. I always try to stay abreast of the developments and the new directions in my field of study. So today, the field of what we call environmental humanities adds to the power of language, the power of literature to develop environmental awareness and empathy, and really start important discussions about being good stewards of the earth and being good stewards of our environment, whether we're in urban space or not. So I've started such discussions in my literature courses and in my courses in African studies. For example, we look at Francophone African novels and children's literature in particular, which are easier to adapt to the language level of students in French, to analyze how the city and city dwellers are represented. And the issues brought about by rapid urban development on the environment, and particularly new configurations of culture. So as I mentioned, the conference was virtual, but I was able to get a lot of input from colleagues, not just in my field, but in many other fields, kind of on the border of the humanities and the social sciences. So receiving input and questions really allows me to fine-tune my research to be able to submit actually for publication. Many conferences, as you know, publish proceedings. Many professional organizations also have, peer-reviewed journals, and faculty should really consider both. So you want to look for, those conferences, that publish, that have proceedings, and also where you have opportunities to submit your research in peer-reviewed journals. What I also want to share is CTRE grants can serve as a springboard for so many other opportunities. I felt confident in applying for a CAORC. CAORC is the Council of American Overseas Research Centers, and they offer faculty development opportunities in many different countries around the world to foster international research. So I applied for a fellowship in India for 2021. It's kind of at a halt right now because, of the pandemic, of course. But I had applied for a spring seminar on the theme exploring urban sustainability through India's cities, because it would have allowed me to make more cross-cultural and international comparisons about urban issues around the world and what local solutions are offered, but also what new cultural configurations and what new expressions are born out of adapting to urban realities. Also of interest to me was the study of Indian children's literature in English, but also bilingually, English and their mother tongue, that addresses the environment, addresses sustainability, and aims to develop children's empathy and environmental stewardship. So that was interesting to me. One of my goals, in addition to integrating such topics in my curricula, is to create a new campus club for environmental humanities. And I thought it was a good way to get interdisciplinary discussions going, stimulate conversation among the humanities, natural, and the social sciences on campus for students. The second level of my professional development plan, and for which CTRE was really of great assistance, is in terms of enhancing my competencies. And one of my goals for this aspect was to concentrate on technology for language teaching and learning. And one of the essential skills for the 21st century is, of course, the ability to use virtual workspaces, information and communication technology. Media, internet literacy is also very important. So another example of how CTRE grants have contributed to my professional development plan is in terms of enhancing my competency in the use of technology. Again, with the travel grants through the years, I was able once again to prepare, present, and publish on a technology topic. This one was preparing global citizens, technology and authentic output in the world languages classroom for the Illinois Council for the Teaching of Foreign Languages. And that was a conference during which I was also able to attend, of course, workshops that were specifically geared to, foreign languages, right? So creating authentic tasks and products, connecting schools abroad, and engaging in collaborative projects. They also, had a workshop guiding us on how to obtain micro-credentials, global micro-credentials for teachers to examine their practices in elements of global competency and global citizenship. And finally, how to incorporate global education into our teaching practices and in our classrooms. Finally, in terms of publishing, my paper presentations really at conferences are always, for me, the first step into preparing my research for publication. It's really at conferences that you receive the best questions, the best suggestions, the input. You also receive attacks, but you're able to engage with colleagues to actually make your research better. I would also say, I think it's easier in my field because we kind of have that international slant. It can be very advantageous to collaborate and communicate with colleagues abroad at different universities. Many universities abroad also have their own peer-reviewed publications, and it's also just nice to connect and see, the different perspectives with colleagues abroad in our own fields and also in many other different fields. So I've been fortunate to be able to publish internationally with some institutions, like the University of Balamand in Lebanon. It's actually a, French Francophone speaking university, actually, and also with the University of Zagreb in Croatia. So these are just suggestions, of course, but it's always nice to branch out to see what others are doing and to engage in conversations. So in conclusion, I would say that CTRE grants, especially for me with the travel grants, have enabled me to prepare, write, present research that has really been a springboard for integrating more topics into my courses, revise student learning outcomes with an eye on some of the essential skills for the 21st century, and also publish. So all of these facets are a part of my professional development plan, which centers on skills, knowledge, and experiences that have helped me, or that help me, I hope, stay effective in my role and develop new content, new curricula, or new courses in the future. So much. Merci. My contact is enorris@csu.edu, and I would be glad to hear from you if you had any questions or comments. Thank you so much. Have a great semester.